GCBN story.
Oh, sure. Yeah, so I'm Jessica Banner. I have a master's degree in rehabilitation counseling, which is disability-based counseling. I have been counseling for about 18 years, did 10 of that in mental health, and then switched gears for the last 8, working in pastoral counseling, predominantly focusing on trauma resolution counseling. Have done several things, kind of helped develop a counseling department in the church that we were working in and training up lay pastors and just support programs in the church. And have currently been working on helping to develop a pastoral counseling education program outside of the church for a more broad spectrum. I have currently been launched a business with my business partners, Grace to Care, which is a podcast for caregivers. To start with, we're working on some other things and currently working on some writing projects. And you're right, got lots of irons and lots of fires. And so, um, my GCBN story. So really funny. Carol Love with Family Promise is one of my best friends, and she knew Miss Beth, and Miss Beth actually had joined her board for Family Promise, and Carol kept telling me, "You've got to meet Beth. You've got to meet Beth." And I did a training for Family Promise, and Carol didn't introduce me to Beth. I just started talking to her. Not, I kind of suspected it was the Beth that Carol was telling me about. But we just hit it off. I think in the first 5, 10 minutes, it was actually really funny because in the first 10 minutes, Beth told me she needed to have a meeting with me by the end of the week. I just laughed. But I knew God was in it. And so we scheduled a meeting by the end of the week. And that was a Wednesday. We met on Friday. And God told me that she wanted to ask me something and I needed to say yes. And so um, we met and she asked me to join the team here on the Wellness Wednesday panel. And I said yes. And it's been about 3 solid years now. Um, but then that followed up with going to God Golf and Girls, and God just did some really big things for me there. Because I was coming out of a season of some pretty heavy caregiving and grieving because I had lost several people. And so it was a real gift to get connected to community again after kind of being disconnected in the caregiving journey. So
Mm,
it has
that's so
been
great.
quite a road.
Well, as it would be, my camera is not working. So I know you can't see me, but I'm sorry. I'm trying to work on it on the side over here. But I am here with you, and we're glad that Jess is here and leading out. And I love how everybody has their own GCBN story. I love how it all starts with Beth mostly, you know what I mean? Like somebody connects us to Beth, and then Beth just takes it from there. And God just has a way of using her and helping us to see what God sees in us. She calls that out. And it really truly is a gift. It's not something that she, like studied or, God just gave that to her and the ability to do that. And I just think that that's great. And it's important to have people like that in your life that can, see some things in you that maybe you don't quite yet see in yourself. And just over I know you can't see me. I'm so sorry. It's so weird. It's so
Okay.
weird.
So
But I know that just in the short time that we've known each other, because I've been with GCBN since 2016, but it really hasn't been that short of a time. I feel like it's been several years. I've just seen the growth in you guys, and I feel, or you, and I say you guys, meaning, you had forged a friendship with Fern Sapp at God Golf and Girls.
I sure
And then
did.
the next year, right, I think is when you guys launched, which would have been not this past GGG.
It was actually a 3-year journey. We met the
Oh,
first
really?
year, and the
Okay.
second year we started having real conversations about caregiving, and I had kind of asked her to have a meeting to kind of process some caregiving things. And year 3 last year, it was funny. She was speaking at GGG, and while she was speaking, I knew God wanted to do something with the two of us. I'd known that for a couple years, but was just kind of waiting on him.
Mhm.
And he he said to me while she was talking, he said, "You two need to do a podcast on caregiving." And I just started laughing. I was like, I'm in the back table at GGG laughing while Fern's speaking. I'm like, yeah, right. She's so busy.
hilarious.
No joke, she got off the stage and walked straight up to me.
Oh,
And I just threw it out there and I was still laughing. I was like, haha, I think you and I are supposed to start a podcast about caregiving. And literally in the next 15 to 20 minutes, we had given our yes and we had the title of our podcast.
so
It,
awesome.
it was so crazy. So,
And I love that. I love that for multiple reasons. I love that I think the most because you guys followed God, right? You, and I know this is not your topic and what we're talking about, but I think it's important to say it because I know some people can come in a room and be like, well, it's a group of women and they should connect with me, or you know what I'm saying? Like putting the onus on somebody else to have those conversations. But really, truly, if God is speaking to you about starting something or doing something, and he's already seeding those things in your heart, and if it is with another person, he's going to do the same. And so you need to have those conversations. And so I just think it's great. So I love it that you guys stepped out in faith and said, okay, God's telling me to do this. That moment she stepped down, you told her about it, that what God was teaching you or telling you. And then you guys took action and you had a plan, and you worked that out. But now you already have everything set up. You have your branding, you have, you're doing your podcast. You guys have completed a devotional book. You have a team put together. Like, I just think it's so cool to see that. And the selfish side of me is like, it was birthed at GGG. Like, that's the selfish part of me. But I think it's funny. I know for years when I first met Jessica, I don't remember you had spoke or at GGG there was a moment or something that you had spoke, and I felt the Lord was like, you need to talk to her because Jessica at the time was doing counseling, and so for like 3 years the Lord was talking to me. The second year we were leaving and you gave me a hug as we're walking away, and I was like, I think I need to reach out to you. And you're like, well, just give me a call, let me know. So that was the second year. Then the third year we moved to Texas and all the things kind of just fell apart. And I remember texting Jessica on the way back home after it was like a horrible day, probably a horrible several weeks. And I text her, I was like, do you have time to talk? And she was like, yeah, I could talk with you tomorrow. And then I just was like, bleh. But it took 3 years. So what I'm saying is make your yes quick, don't wait, because you just never know what he's going to do through that. Okay. I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to get us going because I haven't done that yet. Ooh, sorry.
You're good. You're good. All right. So I'm just going to jump in and get started, and you can do what you got to do. So today we are talking about, this whole year we've been focusing on Beth's acronym for the year, and that's shift, right? And the first 5 months of the year, we went through each letter of shift. And last month we talked about the leadership shift, and we talked about self-leadership, talking about our mind and our hearts. And this month we're doing a part 2 to the leadership shift. And that's going to be leadership culture in business and ministry. And this week's topic is evaluate and calibrate. Because we start with our leadership within ourselves, but then that overflows into our business and ministry, and obviously into relationships and family and all that fun stuff. So I have 2 scriptures for today to get us started. And the first one is Proverbs 24, 3-4. Through wisdom, a house is built, and by understanding, it is established. By knowledge, the rooms are filled with all precious and pleasant riches. And my second scripture for today is 1 Peter 5, 2-3. Shepherd the flock of God, which is among you, serving as overseers, not by compulsion, but willingly, not for dishonest gain, but eagerly, nor as being lords over those entrusted to you, but being examples to the flock. And I really loved those 2 scriptures. I know they're not directly related, but they're really kind of commands from the Lord to build our house, which first and foremost is usually our marriage and our parenting and families. But the next place we build houses is in our churches and our businesses, right? And so being able to establish those in a way that comes alongside truth with good knowledge and wisdom. And so when we're talking about that leadership shift, that's a part of doing that. And shepherding the flock, because if you work in ministry, you work in business, you serve in ministry or business, you work with people and you typically work to serve other people. And so being a good steward of people is a part of good leadership culture in business and ministry. So we are welcome you to July. Today is July 1st. Can you believe it? Halfway through the year. And this year we've been
I can't.
tracking. I can't either. Like, oh, so much. But July, we are talking about that part two. And again, we're focusing on that leadership culture. So today we're going to talk about elevating and calibrating, or evaluating and calibrating so we can elevate. Got all kinds of words here. So um, just to get started today, we're going to talk about evaluating stale systems. So we know the S in shift is about shifting stale systems. The first way we do that, which we talked about in January, is we have to be aware of what it is. But we want to talk about it here in the cultural context. But every business and ministry develops systems designed to create order, efficiency, consistency. However, systems that once served in a season can become stale. They can become rigid or ineffective if they're not regularly evaluated, right? Because the things you did when you were a business of one is not the same thing you do when you're a business of 10. And it's not the same thing you do when you're a business of 1,000. Same thing in ministry, right? The ministry of the few, you should steward it with the same heart, right? Like we're giving it all to Christ. But as things shift and grow and change, a lot of your policies and procedures and how you did things may have to shift. And so, as leaders, we must ask ourselves whether our current structures are producing the growth we want to see, or really just preserving that familiarity and that comfort that we're used to in an environment. Stale systems often reveal themselves. This is how we catch them and become aware of them. We may see them where we see bottlenecks in the work we're doing or in the relationships we're trying to manage. We may see it in poor communication, recurring frustration on all levels, whether it's the customer or the person we're serving, whether it's people that we're working alongside, whether that's employees or volunteers, if we're talking ministry, and often resistance to change. That means people are kind of comfortable in that familiarity, that place of familiarity. And so healthy leadership requires humility to honestly evaluate what is no longer working. So, Lisa, my first question is, how can we identify systems, processes, and routines in our leadership environment that feel outdated, ineffective, or might be resistant to growth?
Wow, that's a lot.
It is a big question. And
Uh,
you
okay.
and you
How,
and I kind of work for ourselves. We don't really have employees, but
yeah. How can we identify systems, processes, or routine in your leadership environment that feel outdated? Okay. I think, like initially I want to say, and I can just use GCBN as an example.
sure.
And I'll just take it back, like with COVID, right? When COVID happened, the process that we were using, right? The membership opportunities and the way we processed that didn't change, but the way that we showed up in the spaces that we were in had to change, you know? And even into today, you know, the things that we did in the past may not necessarily work for what we're going for and shifting for in the future. So, we still do a lot of virtual events. Obviously, you're here with us today, but we also have in-person events as well. We also have just over the years realized that there is a need for, you know, we often in GCBN, most of the people that attend the calls are at least the virtual calls and our prayer call are women. And so when we have individuals that are speaking on our platform, it may be that you just think that it's for women and it's not. And so Beth realized that we needed a place for our men to be able to shine and to be able to take over the platform. And so we have that opportunity in the fall. And so they have a 2-day conference as well in the fall. And so not that that's necessarily a system or a process, but it's how we do business. And so I think just recognizing it, taking an inventory of how you're doing things, or things that are working, or maybe things that are not working. And, back in the day, we used to mail things. We used to send things with stamps, or maybe you had a mail center in your business or at your company. Now, a lot of things are through email. And Jess and I were talking before we even got on the call. If you want to get a hold of me, email is just not the way. It is just not the way to get a hold of me. And so really finding out what processes and communication opportunities are working for you. Maybe, and I know even my husband for work, they have text chats, and of course they have email, but just other ways to be able to reach out. So I don't know if that answers the question entirely, but that's my answer, and I'm going to stick to it.
Sounds good. No, I think those are great examples of exactly that, right? Because it's not going to look the same for every business, what those changes look like, but it's the idea of recognizing things can shift and move, and I have to be able to evaluate and be willing to shift and move, right? And I think one of the first places when we talk about how do we identify those things is to look at how they revealed themselves, right? When you actually look at the bottlenecks and the poor communication and the frustration and the resistance to change, I think those are a great place. When you are seeing those things, feeling those things, that's a great place to lean in to understand. Like if you have a team, it may mean we're having some hard conversations, but information is key, right? Like it can feel difficult to discuss, but if we're willing to discuss it, we might actually find, well, where is the bottleneck? Because that may be where something needs to shift, right? If there's poor communication, there may be things about our policies of communicating with each other and how that may need to shift. And so a lot of times, if we're willing to start with the problem and have honest conversations, because if we've hired people or we have volunteers in our ministry, right? We've obviously already vetted those people. We've said that we've trust those people because we've put them in those positions. And so do we trust them to share information with us?
Yeah,
Right.
that's good.
I remembered when I took my group counseling class, one of the number one things I took out of that class was the professor said, the thing about group therapy versus individual therapy, he said, you go from having one set of eyes to having 12 sets of eyes. He said, that's a lot more information. And if you learn how to use that information and garner that information, it can be really helpful, right?
Yeah.
And so, do I trust those people? And the truth is, if I don't, then that's a whole nother question to ask myself. That's something else I need to examine about the system and the people I've put in place inside the system. So that's good information. And a lot of times we get worried or concerned because that usually means that we are, sorry. Um, Lost my thought. All those messages.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. But it's evaluation is key, and not to be afraid, because just because there's a problem doesn't always mean that there's severe conflict. There can
Yeah.
be, but not being afraid of the difficult conversations, and scripture talks about how we can handle different difficult conversations, how we can escalate difficulty in conversations with accountability and appropriate counsel. And that can be true in business too, having accountability and appropriate counsel if it requires that. And so just being aware, that's a great place to start when you want to look at how can I identify it. Be willing to trust your team.
Yeah, and being honest about it too. I think I had a conversation yesterday in a meeting, and it felt as though the leader did not want to hear the conversations, right? That there was an agenda already.
Mhm.
So I think we need to be mindful of that when we're asking those questions, or when we're having those meetings, or whatever that looks like. If you're in a team meeting, or if you have to be able to take inputs from other people, even
Mhm.
if you have an agenda. And of course, as a leader, you're going to have, I'm sorry that my camera is not working, you guys. I don't know what happened. It's been working for a long time, and now it's just like, no, it's not. But you have to be able to take that input and that feedback. And of course, as a leader, you're going to have to just decide, but it is important that people feel valued and valuable enough to give you the information. Because if you set a tone that what people are telling you you don't care about or you're not going to take in, then they're going to stop giving you the information. And that's free feedback. Beth would say that that's free feedback. People are giving you information, and then that's free. You don't have to pay for that. You can
Right.
change or you can shift based on that information. And so I think it's
Right.
important to when you're having those conversations, be open to maybe you're not going to like what they hear, and maybe you have an agenda already that you're trying to accomplish, but we need to take in people need to feel valued to be able to share information.
Well, and I would speak to this on the other side. Maybe you're not the business owner. Maybe you're not the ministry pastor or leader or volunteer coordinator. Maybe you are the volunteer or you are the employee. That doesn't mean you're not aware of a stale system, especially if you're the person who's got your hands in the system, you know, and not to be afraid to have conversations upward either,
Yeah.
because that means somebody has entrusted you to put you in that position. And, it may not mean that everything that we share with somebody is heated, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't share,
Right.
right? Because information can be helpful. Um, and so, absolutely being aware of stale systems, because stale systems will frustrate people
Yeah.
and it can shut down the flow of your business or your ministry.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
be open to, especially in a ministry situation, or maybe even if you have new people coming to you. We're military, so we're here and there often. You're
Right.
like you're here for a couple of years and then you go somewhere. So we've been around and seen some things and how things work. And so your team or the people that are around you may have better ways of doing things or ideas that have worked in the past. And so I tell you that to say you may have people in your circle that have the answer, but they don't
Mhm.
know how to share the answer with you. Maybe they just need that encouragement.
Right.
Hey, maybe you know a better way of doing things. My husband, he has a QR code system, and it's an anonymous feedback system that he set up. And it's, he has posters around the squadron and he posts it at the end of his email. And so if there are ways or things or stuff going on that
Mhm.
he needs to know about, they can just report it anonymously or give him feedback and tips and things like that. But I tell you this to tell you, you may have people sitting around you that have valuable skills to help you in your business or your ministry, but you
Right.
don't even know what they have.
Right.
So let's be open to hearing what that is. I work with Miss, or I started in 2016 as a member, and I was working and helping through another person. And Miss
Mhm.
Beth thought that person was doing that work, but it was actually my work. So Beth had been around me for like a year and a half before she even knew the skills that I carry. And not that
Mhm.
she just didn't know. It wasn't that she didn't seek out. Like she just
Mhm.
didn't know. So I'm saying that to say you don't know who you have in your circle that knows
Mhm.
how to do some things that
Right.
can move your needle forward. And so maybe it's just ask, like Jess is saying, just ask those questions with that communication. This is what I'm
Right.
trying to do. Is there anybody that has done this or knows how? You guys started a podcast. I'm sure you did some research or you had some people to help you to do that. So anyway, stale systems are stale. So we gotta we gotta
Yep.
shift them.
Yep. So next we're going to move to evaluating impact, right? Leadership is not only about maintaining operations. It's also about producing meaningful impact. And for a lot of us, when it comes to business and ministry, we've been led into those places because we've been inspired by the Lord for kingdom impact. In business and ministry, we must assess whether our efforts are truly creating transformation in the people we serve, lead, and influence. Numbers, attendance, productivity, they do matter, but they don't always tell the full story about the health and effectiveness of your business, of your organization, of your ministry. Strong leaders regularly evaluate both measurable outcomes, but also deeper indicators such as morale, engagement, trust, emotional wellness in your teams and the people that you serve. Our impact should reflect both excellence in execution, but also integrity and leadership. And so when we think about evaluating impact, when we're doing business and even in ministry, we have objectives, things we're trying to accomplish, right? And there are systems involved because we may have product and uh, distribution, and even if we are the product, there's processes to that and how we offer that. And we do have to manage and evaluate those things because we need to be good stewards of the process. That's a part of having good impact. But we also have to evaluate where does the impact, and I think the impact's important in several directions. I think impact with your purpose in the kingdom between you and God. I think it's important to evaluate impact for those that are participating as your employees, your volunteers, the people who work alongside you in the vision, right? But also the people that you're serving. And so, my next question is, how can we assess the impact of our leadership? Let me back that up again. How can we assess the impact our leadership is currently producing in our organization, team, family, and personal well being? Why is it important in terms of kingdom impact?
You have some long questions
I
today.
always do, Lisa. I always do.
Oh, how can we assess the impact our leadership is currently producing in our organization, team, family, and personal well-being? Well, I think all of those are kind of individual in some ways, right? So,
Mhm.
um, and often as a leader, sometimes we may think we're doing just so great, and we may be, but other times we may be thinking that we're doing so great and we're not. So I think having channels to be able, and we did talk about that in the other conversation, but I think having channels to have that feedback flowing freely.
Mhm.
Um, I think just asking those questions too, having that safe space, you know, did that, or offering like a hot wash. In the military we call it hot wash. So after
Mhm.
a exercise or after a thing, then we kind of come together and just dump all the ideas and things and good things and bad things. So just having an
Mhm.
opportunity to be able to do that. Your question, it talks about currently producing in our organization, team, family, and personal well-being. I think in your personal well-being, you're going to know if you're okay. You're going to know if things are flowing freely and good, or you're going to know if you're like crawled up in a ball crying. You're going to know if like you're talking to people and you're getting angry. Like you're going to know and feel and sense that. And I think just having that, what do you call it? Like just that awareness
Mhm.
to know what's going on with you personally. Like, is your gut hurting? Are you having to take bathroom runs? Then you're probably stressed or having some issues there.
Right.
And then just with your team or your organization having those conversations, and then family too. Your family is going to respond to how you are responding, and so if there's lacks in communication or you know frustrations, then you can address those accordingly, I think.
Absolutely. Um, when I think about how do we assess uh, impact, sorry, um, I think you're absolutely right about personal well-being. Although I will say, some of us get so busy and we get so dysregulated, we don't always realize we are.
Mhm.
And so it can be good to have your places you check in. Do you have your own system of checking in with yourself? Do you have people around you that you trust and that care about you, that you kind of have the accountability of checking in with? Because sometimes people see our blind spots where maybe we're not doing as well as we think we are, you know? Because I know sometimes I can be killing it in the tasks, but relationally, I'm dropping the ball.
Mhm.
Or I can be killing it, in certain aspects of life, but be totally neglecting other parts of my life.
Right.
And because it doesn't feel like it's totally a wash, I may not notice it for a while. And so having good people around you can be really helpful in that place of personal well-being. And I think with the rest of them, like when we talk about organization, team, family, ministry, I think I think it goes back to what we said before. I think I'm big on intentional. You guys know my word is intentional. You have to be intentional. And am I willing to have check-in conversations? You know,
Mhm.
one of the things when I work with couples and things like that, one of the things I love is the idea of a weekly date night that's just for fun. Date nights in a marriage are just about we're getting to know each other, we're staying knowing each other, we're having fun together. But I also believe in a monthly business meeting, that couples have a monthly business meeting.
Mhm.
And that's the place where you check in about the business of our family, right? And so um, I think I think those are intentional check-in points. I love the example some people set about doing an annual kind of marriage retreat, and it's really for family, like that a couple goes away for a weekend each year kind of at the same time of the year and says, "Hey, where are we? What do we want to accomplish this year? How do we want to grow this year? What are the things we're investing in for our marriage, for our family to go forward in the things we want to do?" And setting aside that intentional time to evaluate. I liked your hot wash, right? What worked, what didn't, um, where are we going? How are we going to get there? And it's okay if we don't accomplish everything, but at least when we're intentional about having the process, having the check-in, setting the goals, evaluating, we typically are making forward progress, even if we didn't accomplish everything we set out to accomplish. And a lot of times you may accomplish more than you thought you were going to in certain places. And so I think having that, even with family, you know, even doing that with your kids sometimes, like if you do that in your marriage, what does it look like as a family? What do we want to accomplish as a family this year? How are we going to help each other get there? You
Yeah,
know,
and I think we have to take the time to do that too, Jess, because
you do.
our world is not necessarily slowing down. Technology is not slowing down. AI is not slowing down. So we're
No.
going to have to just take the time to take a step back and reset. On the call yesterday, I talked about exactly what you're talking about. If you haven't watched it yet, please go back and check it out. It was our mid-year shift. You know, we're today's
Mhm.
July.
Right.
We still have 6 more months, but we have 6 months behind us. And so just kind of
Right.
looking at what those goals were that maybe we didn't get to accomplish, and not that we're failing in those goals, and kind of reframing that word failure into just knowing that it's a different way to do it. That there's nothing hurt in it. You know, I think sometimes we can take on failure depending on how we're raised or life experience and think, oh, I failed, I failed, I failed. And then you carry that like as a weight on top of you, and we can shut down or collapse. And I
Yeah.
want you to think of the word failure as just a different way to do it. It's a
Mhm.
different that didn't work. Okay, there's another opportunity. And so really kind of taking inventory, as you said, of what goals you had, you know, for the last 6 months, what or even the year previous year. Take an inventory of what that looks like. You know, did you want to have a date night? Did you not? Or did you, you know,
Mhm.
did you want to have a team meeting? Did you want to bring donuts? Like what things did
Mhm.
you want to do that you just didn't get to do yet?
Right.
And then categorize or strategize those into your next 6 months.
Right.
Because there's still time. We still have 6 months. I mean, unless the Lord comes back, but there's still opportunities for us to do things. And
Right.
let's not get caught up on that failure. But exactly what you're talking about is just inventory and making your goals and making your list. And I think sometimes, especially if you're a busy person, and I feel like a lot of high performers are busy. We have to be disciplined in those things. We have to have time set away for prayer. We have to have time set away for reading the Bible. We have to have time set away for, you know, checking in with ourselves and our family, and taking inventory, and then doing something with that list, you know.
Absolutely.
So
Well, and I think the other part of this too is the first and foremost is that we're talking to the Lord about it,
yes.
right? Like we don't Lord doesn't measure success in the way we do, and so that's one reason why it's so important to be in touch with the truth.
Mhm.
What is in God's heart? What is the truth in his word? You know, what is he telling you in your quiet space? What has he told you about the purpose, the mission, the vision of what he's put in your heart, the people he's brought alongside you? And you may be the business owner or the ministry or the nonprofit owner, or you may be someone who's just not just, but you're volunteering and giving your time where someone else has established something, but you're passionate about it, right? And that's important that you're in a lot that you're in alignment with what God defines as impact, because it's going to help you judge the value of impact.
Right.
Right.
That's
And
key.
some,
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
No, I said that's key. I think that's a whole talking point right there.
Well, and I think it's valuable too, because we can very easily as believers like go, God told me I'm going to do this thing, and we can get so locked into it that we miss the part that sometimes he's taking us on a journey and
Yes.
not to a static point,
Right. Right.
right? Like you can have a call in your life, but guess what? You're probably actually going to have multiple assignments.
Hmm.
Right. There's going to be multiple assignments in your life, and they may all point in the same direction, right? Like you may be passionate about domestic violence, or you may be passionate about feeding the hungry, or you may be passionate, but you may have multiple assignments inside of that space.
That's right.
And the likelihood that God is going to take you on a journey, because the truth is, a lot of times, part of what we're passionate about can sometimes be a place we've been wounded.
Right.
Um, and
Yep.
so he may take you through a part of that and put you on different assignments to even bring healing within yourself.
Hmm.
Um, and that may evolve, and that's okay. That's the beautiful part about a living, breathing relationship, is we grow, we heal, we learn, and it evolves, it elevates, right? And so it's not a negative thing to get in that, but it's important to stay in communication, because assignments can shift, and you do not want to be out from the grace of God when you are in the middle of the work of God and kingdom work. So Um,
That's
you want to
good.
stay with him, move with him, flow with him,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And so, and I will
Absolutely.
tell you, sometimes evaluating impact is going to let you know if the flow of the river has changed course.
Mm. Yeah.
Because if you're finding you're not having the impact in the way that you were having, it may mean something has shifted. And so I've got to get in touch with God. I've got to get in touch with my system, because that may mean the needs have changed.
Hmm.
That may mean the people providing it have changed. Maybe they're in a place where they've been in a process with God, and they've gotten kind of stale, like God's actually trying to move them on to their next assignment.
Yeah.
He may be using you to help that person move into their next assignment. And so it's all connected. And so staying in contact with the Lord
The
and
word I
just,
keep thinking of just is refinement. Like
mm,
as you're speaking, is just that refinement. You think of a
mhm,
diamond and it's not very pretty, kind of came from
right,
the ground or, from a rock somewhere. It's a rock itself and it's not very
right,
pretty. And then, the refinement comes through the fire part. And that's never really fun. I don't think personally, where I'm like, sure, Lord, I mean, set my heart on fire so that I'll be a light. Yes. But like not the purging and the crushing and the pushing
right,
and the refining part. But if you've ever had that in your life, which I'm sure we all could be honest and say yes, we've experienced that. If you look at it from this side, it was good. It was profitable. But if you look at it from the side that you were on the other side of that refinement, it did not feel so good, and it didn't feel like it was going to be profitable. But I think something that you said too, and I mentioned it yesterday as well, is God will use you for the thing that he's refined you in. It's just, are
mhm,
you going to be willing to share that with those that need it? And
mhm,
he's using that as a testimony, whether something bad happened to you that you didn't cause and that God didn't cause. Bad things do happen. Can we forgive, and can we get to a place where God can use that thing to help
mhm,
people shorten their curve of learning? And I
right.
think that when you can get into that groove, like you're going to be able to your impact is going to be greater than if you're sitting in that bitterness and that unforgiveness.
Yeah.
It's just really important and it's hard. It really is hard. And you may need some help, and you may need to reach out. And something that I said yesterday is, if a name or a thing keeps popping up and it's under your skin, then that's not forgiven yet. And I know you could talk to forgiveness too, Jess. Um, but I think when we can just quickly give it to God, and every
Mhm.
time it starts to surface, if it hasn't been completely forgiven,
Right.
continue to give it to him, and then be able to shorten that curve for people who are walking that path.
Mm.
Because you probably would have wanted had somebody, not that you not that somebody can help you refine any faster. I'm not saying that, but
Sure.
I'm saying it would be nice to have had somebody in your situation that you were being refined in to kind of help you and navigate. So be that person for someone else. Help your 5 year ago self is what I'm trying to say.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. I think about that. The first when you were talking, the first thing that came to mind was it hurts so good. But a lot of times that's not true. That is not how we experience it. And I there's the reality and the transparency. I remember in my journey of caregiving and hitting some really tough spots where I was personally, where I was in the work I was doing and the caregiving, and I was really stuck. Actually, that book people know that I'm working on about Mount Everest was really birthed out of the depth of that season. And I just remember being so at the end of myself and having nothing left. And I remember telling my therapist at the time, like, one day I'll see the good in this, and one day I'll be happy about it. But today is not that day.
Right. And that's,
Today is not that day.
and that's okay.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
And because what that statement said is I still knew God was good.
Yeah.
And I still knew on the other side of it. And he was okay with the fact that I wasn't okay, you
Mhm.
know? And
Mhm.
he knows in his kindness and his gentleness and in his love for you, he knows the truth of those places.
Right.
And so it is okay to step in with honesty, to look at those things within ourselves in that refinement process. And um, and even in the being honest, right, about our systems and our impact, I can be honest where I'm dropping the ball. I can be honest where I'm picking things up. I can be honest where my woundedness is impacting me in relationships.
Right.
Right. And we obviously want to identify safe people, and if you're finding even in this conversation that that's you, might be encouraged to speak to a counselor, speak to a coach, speak to a pastoral leader in your church. Do you have a safe friend to talk that out with? At Grace to Care, one of our taglines is we're grace to care together, but we have a theme song, and one of the lines in that song says, you were never meant to walk this road out on your own. And that's the beautiful thing about all of this is we're not.
Mhm.
We're all connected, and it's all feedback, and it can be helpful.
Yeah.
When we heal, we learn how to hear feedback more and more clearly and less as personal attack, but be able to hear for what it is.
Right.
So super important.
So
But I
good.
think we probably got to move on.
Yeah.
So, since we're going to end up down our rabbit hole, the next thing we're going to talk about is calibration through alignment. So, we've talked about evaluation. So, now we're going to talk about what do we do with that? We got to calibrate, right? So, evaluation creates awareness, but calibration creates movement.
Mhm.
Once we identify what is misaligned, we must intentionally recalibrate our systems, priorities, and leadership habits. Calibration requires us to align with what is sustainable, effective, and rooted in God's purpose, not simply what is familiar. As Christian leaders, this also means aligning with biblical wisdom, healthy boundaries, and God's direction for this season. Sustainable elevation happens when alignment becomes intentional. What can we do to increase our alignment between our values, leadership practices, and organizational systems? At least it's like, Jessica.
I don't have no other questions. They're good though. I'm laughing because it like makes you really think about what's going on. Um, and I think we've covered some of this too, even just in our previous conversation
Sure.
with alignment. I feel like too. I feel like alignment and how and in the spiritual, right? Um,
Mhm.
you can align yourself with people that are quote unquote spiritual. I know you can't see me because my camera's broken, but like quote unquote spiritual, but they may not be where God has called you to be.
Mhm.
So you have to kind of take an inventory of that as well.
Mhm.
Obviously, we're always going to lean to where God wants us to be, what He's talking to you, what He's calling you to, but you also do have to be aligned with people. And your alignment with your values, your leadership, your practices, your organizational systems, that is kind of who you're hanging with. You know what I mean? That influential impact that we talk about with the I and shift.
Mhm.
You are impacting people or they are impacting you. And we just have to really be careful where we're taking that information from.
Mhm.
And today we're not saying go out and change all of your systems and make them unstale. We're just saying like identify what that looks like, identify those things. And so increase your alignment between your I think you just have to lay them out. Like, God, help me to know what my value is, what my leadership practice, like what is he showing you in those things? It
Mhm.
likely should kind of push back toward Bible principles, right? And what he's already taught us. It should do that. Um, and that's probably not the best answer, but I'm going to stick with that for 500.
Sounds good. Sounds good. When I think about what we can do to increase our alignment, one, we have to be really clear about what are our values.
Mhm.
What are those? What is that biblical wisdom? What are healthy boundaries? What is God's direction for the season? I think it's hard to bring things into alignment if I'm not established in those things first. And so one of the ways we can calibrate through alignment is to be clear with ourselves. And it can be evolving. God can be healing you, and your beliefs about certain things can be evolving. Your awareness of boundaries can be evolving. That's okay. But in whatever season you are, where you are you the clearest you can be with the Lord about what those things are? Right? Am I being on purpose to understand what are my values in this season? Right? Do I value integrity? Do I value honesty? Um, and so what are those places? Because when you know what your foundation is, it allows everything else to be in alignment, right? If your foundation is off, your whole house is going to be off.
Yeah.
But if you have a firm foundation, it allows the building of that house to be in alignment with the foundation.
Yeah.
Right.
That's so good.
And so I think getting rooted there first is a great way to think about increasing uh, that alignment between your values and leadership practices and organizational systems. I think there's so much in the word that talks to us about different kinds of things, right? The word talks to us about finances, business, relationships. And so there are policies and systems and leadership principles all throughout scripture. And so the next thing to say is, do my policies align with the truth of God?
Yeah.
You know? Um, and it doesn't mean that it's always word for word. There may be ways we've had to process that or interpret that in the space that we're in. But the other thing I would say is accountability, right? Like, who am I being accountable to that these things are in alignment? I'm big on accountability because we're not meant to walk this out alone. And a lot of times when we put it on our own shoulders, we're more prone to pick it up for ourselves. When a lot of times when we have that more eyes can see,
Yeah.
right? Um, then we're more likely to bring it back into alignment. And other people may again see our blind spots. They may see where some things are out of alignment that we can't see.
Yeah. Jessica, can you talk about that accountability? Like where are some spaces and places we can find that accountability? I know we all know like our prayer partner accountability, like we know how
Sure.
to do that. Like you kind of asked that, but like for your business or even in your faith, like what would you suggest? Like, what do we need to do to find that or
I
to?
actually get asked that a lot in my counseling practice, at least on the faith side. Um, I think let me talk business first. I think when you're in business, I think there's lots of spaces. We live in the world that is all about coaching.
Mhm.
We live in a coaching kingdom, in this season and day. But there are coaches, like if you want to grow and develop in your leadership, I mean, the science is there, research is there. They've done so much research about success and failure and the idea that, and it's scriptural, right? The Lord says, have wise counsel and let the old teach the young. Like, so there is biblical principle under this idea that we have mentorship and coaching and people who we can come alongside to learn from. Even if we don't love everything about everything that they do, it doesn't
Right.
disqualify the quality of the education they may have for us. It's a natural part of the human story that we gain skills and we learn and then we pass them on. It's a huge part of humanity, right? Because we know we're not going to be here forever. So we build the skill and the knowledge and then we pass it on. And so that's already built into humans' natural lifespan development that we want to give it away. So who are you partnering with who's ahead of you, who can teach you and evaluate? And they may catch the things that you just don't know anything about yet, right? Like there may be experiences they've had that you just haven't had it to even know you need to think about it. And so, do you have a business coach? Do you have somewhere in some area of your life that you're investing in leadership to help you grow?
Mhm.
So that can be mentors, that can be coaches. There's all kinds of coaches out there. If there's a certain part of your business you're wanting to grow in, sometimes it may come through just a personal relationship. You may find somebody who's doing what you want to do and you think they do it well. Nothing wrong with having a conversation, right? And so it's being willing to, I used to tell my teenagers this when I worked in counseling with teenagers for so many years. I said, it never hurts to ask. The worst thing anyone's going to tell you is no,
Mhm.
but you never know what someone might be willing to offer you if you're just willing to have a conversation.
Mhm.
And because the Lord also operates in that space. There are people assigned to help you,
That's right.
like, and so on the ministry side, I think there's all kinds of things. I think we get connected in small groups and we have that accountability. We may build personal relationships. Like I have a group of best friends that have permission to tell me just about anything they need to tell me because I've invested in life and they have, and we share a true, our interpretation of our faith and our scripture is in alignment with each other. So they have permission to look at it and go, "Hey, Jess, you're kind of dropping the ball here," you know, that maybe that wasn't handled quite as well as you thought it could have been, or maybe you didn't recognize that this was happening over here while you were focused here, you know. So you can have that peer group of accountability. You may also have a personal counselor or a coach if you're working through some healing processes or working with a coach that's helping you in a growth area of some kind. So you may also have the reality is we have pastors in our churches, but there's also the reality that the pastor is not usually, for the most part, always our personal leadership. You know, as much as people hate to hear it, pastors cannot carry and bear the weight of every individual in their church all the time.
Yeah,
And
that's
so
right.
that's why we have to have it's why their depression and mental health rates are so alarming in pastors. We have some severe crises sometimes in pastoring with mental health. And so it's important for us as part of the body to recognize God equipped and gifted many people in the body to
That's
walk
right.
alongside us. And we can walk out, we can ask questions. I went to church leadership when I was young and said, "Hey, do you have anybody in this church that does mentorship?" I asked. Some churches don't, some people do. Um, you know, some people get connected to a group. Some people may get connected to a pastoral leader that's been trained underneath the senior pastor or the executive pastor of a church. There may be whole pastoral teams that are more responsible for caring for the needs of the people and shepherding. And so again, it's one of those things that don't be afraid to ask, because even if the church itself that you're attending doesn't offer it, that person may be able to lead you to other resources to get connected to solid people or solid leadership.
Yeah, and
So,
I think to kind of round that out, like you just have to ask, and I think you have to be bold enough to ask and know exactly what you're looking for or what you're trying to not trying to get out of it. That sounds wrong, but like what the objective is that you're trying to reach. And I
mm,
love that we have GCBN because we do have counselors, we do have coaches, we have certified counseling. We have pastors. it is a well-rounded organization. We also have
Mhm.
business coaches and business counseling, and even Miss Beth, she does coaching as well. So I think it's
Mhm.
a great place to, if you're not connected to an organization like ours,
Yep.
just research us. We're not saying do it, go join now, but we're just saying like we have benefited from that. And so
Mhm.
I think that Jessica lined it out very well for us, and it's just being bold enough to know what you need and ask the questions. And like she said, all they can say is no. And for some people, a no is very hard to hear. But if you hear enough no's, you're going to hear some yeses. For every 10 people you ask, one person strategically or statistically should say yes. So in a sale, obviously, like if you're asking for a sale, it's 10 and 1 usually. So it's okay to get the no, just don't be attached to the outcome. Just keep asking, or ask for the referral. Well, do you know
Mhm.
somebody that would do
Mhm.
this or can do this? I want to shout out our Facebook side people, Jessica, if I can.
Mhm.
Anidra is over there. Anidra said Guten Tag. She's in Germany, which makes me sad. Not sad. I used to live in Germany and I love it. It's a beautiful country. So Anidra, thanks for tuning in from Europe. Kenna Walker's over on the Facebook side as well. And if any of you others are over there, let us know. We'll be sure to shout you out. If you have anything or any questions for Jessica or myself, please share those and we'll bring them over.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I think the ask is what's important. And here's the truth. I'm going to say this and I'm going to read our last section. A no, sometimes we want to, so a lot of times we define a no as rejection when sometimes that no is protection.
Say that again. What
We
capture?
can, we can some, we tend to have we have a tendency to identify a no as rejection when sometimes that no is protection. Because you may not know, the Lord knows more than you do, and you may not know everything going on in that person's life and what their real capacity is. And so it may actually benefit you that somebody set a healthy boundary, or it may benefit you that the Lord inspired a no. Because I agree with Lisa, there's a yes, there's a yes out there, and not to give up on that. Keep asking. Um, so, last section, elevating leadership culture. Elevation happens when leaders commit to cultivating healthy culture from the inside out, which is why we talked about part one last month with stewarding our hearts and our minds. Strong leadership culture strengthens systems, deepens impact, and improves mental and emotional health and creative environments where people can thrive. Business and ministries flourish when leadership values growth, adaptability, accountability, and care for people. As Christian leaders, we're called to lead with both excellence and compassion, stewarding people and purpose with wisdom. Leadership culture shifts when leaders model transformation they want to see. So, my last question, and I'll have a call to action when we chat this out for a couple minutes. What steps can you take to determine the kind of leadership culture? Uh, Determine the kind of leadership culture are you actively creating, and what culture do you believe God is calling you to build? So, what steps can we take to identify what we are creating and um, the one that God is calling us to build? Any thoughts, Lisa? Well, she went quiet on me, so I guess I'll talk about that. um,
I'm here. My brain is just spinning. I was talking and I had you on mute. I was saying like I'm trying to formulate my thoughts.
I was like, I'm just here. It's fine. Um, so I think we've talked so much today. I think we've covered a lot of ground and there's a lot of overlap in some of what we've talked about today. But I think the biggest thing is get rooted in the truth, get aligned with the Lord, and then get aligned with yourself in the things the Lord is telling you with, and then get aligned with your people. And that can mean having the hard conversations. That can mean assessing impact. That can mean going through a growth process of some kind. But if we want to determine the culture we have, that's that having the hard conversations, right? But we can evaluate more of that data if we know what the foundation is. And I think the thing about what culture do we believe God is calling us to build, I think that's why we have to live in an active relationship with the Lord. You know, it's kind of like we talked about, God's not calling us to a stagnant point. We don't just have one encounter, right? Like if I had just met Lisa one time, she might have thought I was great, but it wouldn't have meant anything for her life. She'd have gone on and met other people, right? It was about the fact that we had consistency over time that created value, the depth of the value in our relationship. And the same thing is true with God, right? It's been consistency over time that builds the depth of our value with the Lord. And it's what allows us to know when things are shifting. You know, if God is ending an assignment, starting a new assignment, taking us somewhere new, inviting new people to be a part of what we're doing. When we stay in that active relationship with the Lord on a daily basis, weekly basis, you know, we're staying fresh in the relationship to know currently what direction is God asking me to build.
Yeah, that's good. I don't have
Anything?
anything to add. I think you covered all of that. I think just that quick yes, often we can think about it. I even mentioned it yesterday. It's so funny how these calls are overlapping, the two of these for Tuesday and today. And I don't know when you sent your email, but I didn't look at this, so I didn't copy your notes, but it's so cool how God has tied that together. But really, I think sometimes, um, I lost that point that I was talking about, but just I mentioned some of these things too in the call yesterday, and aligning yourself. Oh, the quick yes, that's the thing that I was going to say. Sometimes we want to put it in our prayer journal and pray about it. Sometimes we want to put it in our calendar and think about it. Maybe I'll execute it next week, but it's really he's asking you for that quick yes. If it is from him, he's not wanting you to say yes to everything. We can't possibly do that. I will be the first to tell you. You can have many irons in the fire, but not all of them probably should be in the fire. Some of them could be no's. And that goes back to also what Jessica was saying too. A no isn't a rejection. It's also that protection for you. So sometimes you have to say no to things, and that's okay. If you're a people pleaser or an overcoming people pleaser, you're going to have to make that no a no sometimes. But if he is genuinely calling you to something he's pulled you out of, something he's refined you through, he's wanting you to start a podcast or a community or help in a ministry, and that just continues to be put on your heart, like that's the answer. And then you seek out how to do that. So and it is spending that time with him, like Jessica's saying, and he'll show you. And it may not, you may not have the whole blueprint, right? So you may have to reach out for those, to your network to kind of navigate that or work that out or flesh that out. Maybe you don't have a business plan right away, but like, what he's calling you to do. And so, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to give this call to action, and then I'm going to let you close us out, Lisa. So
Okay, sounds good.
My call to action this week is to commit to one leadership shift this week that will strengthen culture, improve impact, and support long-term growth. So that means getting with the Lord, talking to him about it. And it doesn't mean you have to change everything today. It means identify one thing that I can make a shift in this week and put it into practice. And probably tell somebody, because I'm about accountability. So
Tell Jessica, type it out in the chat or put it over on the Facebook side. Jessica, after the call, if you're able to, will you go underneath Facebook and share how we can connect with you? You can put whatever you want, your pages, your website, your however we can connect with you. And then do that too, like reach out. Jess has a lot going on in her world, but she brings value, and the Grace to Care ministry that they've just started is beautiful. It's really neat to see how God's working that out, and they're helping people right through what they've walked through. And so that's just kind of like a living example of some of the things that we've talked about today and yesterday. So I'm going to share my screen. I know you still can't see my face. I don't know what is happening with the camera. We'll figure that out by next week. I want to share that we do have a Facebook page and a Facebook group. You can find us on either of those. We do have a website as well, georgiachristianbusinessnetwork.com. We have all of our opportunities here. We also have our membership opportunities and our sponsorship opportunities. It's not just a networking organization. This is not going to be a networking organization like you've seen ever before. If you've ever connected with one, this isn't like a Toastmasters or like a speaking opportunity. This is a God-centered, putting God back in business. It is allowing you as a business owner, or maybe you work in corporate, or maybe you're in ministry, to really have a place with like-minded individuals who are purposing to put God first, purposing to put God in business, or of course he's in your ministry, but just having that place. You know, some people do business around God, or he's like around their business, but at Georgia Christian Business Network, we do business by God's standards and with him. He is that cornerstone, like Jessica said. A cornerstone in masonry is that first block that you build. And after you're laying the other foundational parts of the building, if that cornerstone is not straight, that building is not going to stand. And so God is our cornerstone. Jesus is our cornerstone, and we are here to serve him. And you'll find that all throughout our platform, our messaging, all the things that we do. So check out our website. We do have a quarterly networking opportunity coming up. It's an opportunity for you to come meet belly to belly, face to face, heart to heart, hand to hand, hug to hug, whatever you do. It is called Shift, Believe for It, from Vision to Manifestation and Mission Possible. We have two presenters on that platform. We have Jason Davis, who is a stewardship coach. His name is Mr. Fortify is what he's affectionately called, but he owns Jericho Force Enterprises, and he's going to be speaking on the platform on the 18th. We are going to be at Cornerstone. Starts at 9:30. There is a registration fee. I'm sure there'll be some type of food there. Beth and Jess always do that, but Dr. Jessica is her daughter, and they always put on these events very nicely. So we also have Vicki Jumper, who is a nurse practitioner, and she's the owner of Southern Comfort Hospice, and she's going to be on platform as well. So check that out. On our Facebook page, I do want to show you, if you go to events, you can see all of our events either on our group or our page. They're both cross-posted there by our beautiful virtual assistant, Rose, and she does much more than just virtual assistants, but she's amazing. So on Monday, we have our prayer call. We have Renee Salvery. She's over here on the Zoom side, and she leads that call on Monday, and it's beautiful. And there's no, like cells or PowerPoints or, points to talk through. It's literally just coming, bringing your burdens and praying to God. And it sets your week off in just such a beautiful place. And so purpose to be there, 9 o'clock in the morning. It is on Zoom. But you don't have to have your camera on if you don't want to. And so come and check that out. That is on Monday. Every Tuesday, we have a Transformation Tuesday call, and that call is to set your week up right in business. And so there's a business owner who will come and give business acumen and a topic for you to be able to glean from. Living Well Wednesday is what we did today. That is every Wednesday at noon. Our Wellness Wednesday team comes and presents for us. I'll open this up so you can see their beautiful faces. Jessica takes the first 2 weeks, so week 1 and week 2. Then we have Julie, who comes alongside and speaks more. My computer is acting so silly. Speaks more on the wellness side and nutrition, products, better things for your body. And then on the 4th week of the month, the 4th Wednesday of the month, we have Dr. Chi-Chi, who comes. She is a professor, but she also did go through medical school, but she just doesn't practice medicine. She is teaching, and she also comes from like the holistic and the wellness space. And then we have Shantae Bullock, who comes up and kind of firms it up in a Facebook Live for us on the GCBN platform to kind of just mesh it all together at the end and tie it all together at the end of the month. So that happens every Wednesday at noon. This Friday, we have the beautiful opportunity of seeing Tyrese Eccles. She's going to be leading out our first Friday noon nugget. The first Friday of every month, we have about a 20-minute conversation on Facebook. That'll be in our Facebook group. And we have a business owner who comes and just gives you something that you can implement right away in your business, a tool, a tip, something like that, just to put into your business or your ministry. Tyrese Eccles used to be our virtual assistant for Miss Beth years ago. She is now has her own business, and she also works at a college and is doing great things. And so she's amazing. So you'll want to check that in, check that out. Her topic for Friday is about my father's business in the storm. So check that out. You can always catch our replays. They'll be on our Facebook page and our Facebook group. We also have a YouTube channel, and so you can check those out on YouTube. And then we also have God Golf and Girls, which is going to be coming up August 14th, 15th, and 16th. You can go to any of these events and say that you're going. You'll get a notification an hour prior. For God Golf and Girls, you're going to need to let us know a little bit before an hour. Okay, so you're going to have to register. There's a lot of preparation that is involved with that. You can get your tickets at Eventbrite. You can click on this link here. You can share with a friend. If you're a guy, I'm sorry you can't come. It is for women only, but you can undergird some women. You can offer a scholarship. You can send your wife, your spouse, your mom, your sister, whoever. And it's just a great weekend. We do have on our website a GGG link. We say it so fast, it's like, but God Golf and Girls is what it stands for. There's videos out here. It tells you a little bit about, what we do, what we can put on a website. Of course, the weekend cannot be, displayed in a website, or it's just a beautiful, beautiful experience. So check that out. We are still taking opportunities for tickets. We have 43 days until we'll be on the grounds at Lake Lanier. Beautiful venue. There is an opportunity for golf, but it's a small opportunity. So if you hear God Golf and Girls and you don't listen to me anymore, please don't be like I was. Like, it is a great opportunity. There's a lot of golf. I mean, a lot of God, a lot of girls, and a little bit of golf. So check that out. And if you have any questions or you need anything, please let us know. We are still praying for, I know you can't see my face, but hear my heart. We are still praying for Miss Beth, Dr. Jess, Romy, Felicia, the family, as we've lost Mr. Jerome. And so we're continuing to lift them up. We're continuing to support them however we can. There are opportunities financially that if you wanted to donate to them, you can. That is on our Facebook page and our Facebook group, and they're pinned at the top. They are taking bereavement leave right now. So if you have any questions regarding God Golf and Girls, regarding Georgia Christian Business Network, anything about membership, reach out to myself or Rose, and we'll be able to help you. We are in both the Facebook pages and the groups. You can also email info@gcbnetwork.com. And we're just trying to give them that space, to rest, to reset, and to just have that leave, that time of leave, to not have to worry about anything on our end. And so if you have any questions, we're here to support and to help, allow them to have that space. We're holding that space. So, all right, Jess, that's it.
All right. See you later.
Hey, we'll see you guys back next time. Hopefully you'll check